This story starts at the beginning of the pandemic, probably when a Target dress designer couldn't come up with any ideas and got so depressed that started binge watching Little House on the Prairie. They were hit with a strong wave of nostalgia for CottageCore dresses. What exactly is a CottageCore dress, you ask me? It's a midi dress with a tiered silhouette. It features a high neckline and long sleeves. It's made in a soft cotton featuring small mixed floral print in earthy tones. So when the designers got back in office, they basically
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
no judgment here. Inspiration can come from anything, I can understand. But what this dress started was a revolution on social media. People were so offended by these hideous designs, they started doing funny photo shoots.
In a Target dress. It's called the TargetDressChallenge.
And some of these are so hilarious. People posted with their chickens and their goats. And even some dudes jumped in. I later found out that they're called chicken daddies, and there's a legit 2021 chicken daddy calendar on Etsy if you have $10 to burn right now. Of course, I bought the dress, and of course, I did my Target Dress Challenge pictures. Mix in some B-roll with chickens and horses and farm animals, and here I am, farmer chic. Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Momo Makes. I'm your girl Momo, and I do DIYs, upcycles, and sewing projects. I'm redefining the Target Dress Challenge. I'm going to take a Target dress and I'm going to upcycle it into something that's beautiful, more contemporary, and more functional. So I'm going to be transforming my dress from this to this. So hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and let's get started. Before I jump into the inspiration mood board, let's just address for a second what is wrong with these dresses. Simply put, it's a CottageCore nightmare. The shoulders are too gigantic. They make me look like a linebacker. The sleeves are so unflattering. They're billowy, they're large, they have no shape. The overall dress is loose and ugly. It's not form-fitting at all. It doesn't accentuate my figure. And the print, it's ugly. So I will be addressing all of those. My design inspiration comes from two of my most favorite designers of all time, Corey Lynn Coulter and Farm Rio. Corey Lynn Coulter has billowy, beautiful tiered dresses with beautiful floral prints. And of course, Farm Rio is known for their tropical, large, floral, and contrasting colors. I'm starting out my design process by sketching out some leaves. I'm thinking monstera and some large palms and some loose leaves and maybe some flowers, basically tropical flowers that are inspired by Farm Rio. Materials I'm using for this project are fabric scraps that I have collected from my other projects. I'm not using anything new for this. I'm laying the leaf sketches on top of the folded fabrics, and I'm going to cut out different leaves. Here I sketched out a monstera leaf, and I'm going to stack it and cut it out of this red fabric. For this design, I was thinking of layering different leaves, so I'm cutting out this black dotted fabric and I'm making large and small leaves, and these are basically inspired by the palm tree or the lemongrass. I also had this pink fabric and I decided to make leaves on a vine. And I also cut out these orange large palm leaf shapes. Then I used the fabric paint to draw some circles and shapes. Eventually, I decided not to use these because they turned out to be so gigantic that the design just did not look good. But I'm just showing you my process. As you start working on design, sometimes you realize halfway that something is not working, and I think that is perfectly okay. It's part of your journey, it's part of the creative process, so you have to feel it. If you don't feel like something is going to look good in the end, you can skip it. There are no rules. As long as you enjoy the process, that's what really matters. So as you can see, I'm layering the large leaves and they just seem just too large. And at this point, I can't cut them smaller. So I just decided to discard them and come up with a different layout. I decided to go with this 3-leaf, 3-bush configuration, as you call it. I think the black really gives you a very good contrast and I really like it. And I'm trying out still to incorporate my big leaves, but I don't think it's working honestly, so I have to move on. So the scraps that I had left over from the red large leaves, I'm going to use as some sort of like a floral, like a tulip flower or something like that. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it looks like tulips. Yeah, I think I'm onto something. See, if you trust the process, it always works out in the end. And I had so much fun working on this project. Once I was happy with my design, I decided that I wanted to glue it to the fabric first. It's a permanent glue, but basically the idea is that I'm going to do machine embroidery on top of it. I do have a freehand machine embroidery foot that I'm going to show you in just one second. I'm going to attach my fabric scraps so that they don't move around. I'm using the fabric tack just to hold them in place. I'm not applying too much glue because I don't want it to be stiff. I'm not using any fabric stabilizer in the back too because I really want this to be a functional dress. So one by one, I applied the glue to all of my flowers. I have a piece of cardboard underneath so that the layers of the dress don't stick to each other. I think the design looks pretty good. It's quite symmetric. The colors pop. The little house on the prairie print in the background is a perfect backdrop for this kind of a bold design. The colors that I'm using for this applique are very complementary to the background colors. So I think it turned out to be really good. I decided to put a symmetrical, smaller applique on the upper bodice as well. I realized that the leaf shapes that I had cut were still a bit too large for the bodice because there's not much space, and I have to put in some elastic, and I also have to adjust the shoulder. I had to put in some darts as well, so I had to make sure that the design is small enough that it looks good but it doesn't cover up the entire upper bodice and it is balanced. So I made the same tulip pattern here as well. It's not exactly the same as the bottom one, as you can see, but I think it works together. I kind of like it. It's nice. To be honest, I was thinking of editing out this part because how tedious, right? How tedious. Should I show all of these steps? But then I want you guys to realize that it is part of the process, and I want you to see the process. I want to share my process with you because it gives me so much joy. The reason I'm making all these videos is to share my process with you. I'm doing these projects because they give me joy, and I want you to see it, and I want you to feel it, and I want you to be inspired. And when you do your project, I want you to feel the same joy. Let's for a second talk about the type of glues that you can use for this kind of a project. You can use a fabric glue for this kind of a project, There's also the option of using the fabric basting spray, which quilters use. You can buy it from Walmart for like $10. I did not have that at that time, so I went with this fabric glue. While I was working on the applique, I realized that the Little House on the Prairie fabric print contrasted really well with the black dotted pattern. And I had a scrap of black and white stripy fabric, and I thought, why not use that as an additional accent? So I am just folding the fabric scrap and I am cutting strips out of it. I'm using the fabrics in such a way that the lines are across the strip. So it is black, white, side by side, not horizontal. I think that is going to pop out really well when it is applied as bias binding. Before I had started working on the applique, I actually did this test and I think it looked really good. It's time to lock and load. Oh no, wait. I need to start with the machine embroidery first. For this, I'm going to take off my walking foot and I'm going to install the machine embroidery foot. This is also called the quilting foot. Once you install this foot and you install the base plate, it just allows you to move the machine needle in any direction. So your sewing machine turns into an embroidery machine. It does require some skill, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't have much of that, but I still think that it's a good thing to try. You can order these feet off of Amazon. They're not very expensive. They're under $10. Or you can even order those large packs of Singer feet that come in packages of 11 and 17, and they have all of these fancy embroidery feet and ruffler feet, and you can use those. So the machine embroidery process is pretty simple. You can just move the fabric wherever you want, and the machine needle goes up and down and you just move the fabric underneath it. So I decided to make the outline of all my flowers with black thread, and I think it's going to pop really well. Moving on to the stripy bias tapes, I'm going to just notch the bias tape because I'm going to apply it around my neckline. Notching makes it easier to bend around a curve, and I'm going to bend it and I'm going to pin it in place, and then I'm going to stitch it in place, staying as close to the edge as possible on both sides. Next, I decided to cover the button placket with the stripy fabric as well. For this, I made larger 1-inch thick bias tape. I'm just going to lay it on top of the placket and I'm pinning it in place and just sewing it down on one of the sides where the buttons are. This is going to cover the buttons. And I'm also applying some stay stitches between the buttons just so that the placket doesn't come undone. Moving on to the bottom ruffle of the dress, I'm applying this contrasting bias tape to the bottom of the dress right on top of the appliques, just so that they are binded together and the leaves don't come undone, and it looks like the leaves are growing out of this bias tape. I think it looks pretty good and it brings the whole design together. Again, this is a tedious process because you have to do the seam binding on both sides. But once it's done, it's absolutely beautiful. It looks very neat and professional. I'm moving on to the shoulder darts. I decided to add about 4 inches of darts. I had already marked this on my mannequin. The mannequin that I'm using is to my size, so this process was very easy for me. Just a quick tip, if you don't have a mannequin, just wear the dress and put some pins in where you would like the darts to go on your shoulders. Flip your dress inside out and just draw the shoulder darts and sew them. Next, I decided to address the sleeve problem. So I tried various options by wearing the dress, and I decided to just cut off the sleeves at 3/4 sleeves length and finish the seam with the binding tape that I had made. This is going to give the sleeves a little bit of a contrast. Since these are billowy sleeves, they are naturally cut in such a way that they look like bell sleeves, so I don't have to do much. I was thinking of applying the elastic to bind at the hem, but then I decided not to do that. I think the bell sleeves work really well on my body shape. I have an hourglass shape. Next, I decided to cinch in the waist. I am going to make a belt for this dress as well, but in order to give the dress some shape but also not to lose the pockets that are already there, I decided to put in the elastic. For this elastic, I marked how long the elastic should be on my waist and I made a loop. I sewed the loop shut. Then I pinned the elastic to the side seams of the dress on the waistline and then just stretched the elastic. As you can see that I'm stretching the elastic as I'm sewing. Tip for you guys, if you're doing this, just pin the elastic in a couple of different places other than the side seams as well, maybe in the middle front and the middle back. And once you stretch the elastic and start sewing, these anchor points are going to make sure that the elastic is stretched evenly across the dress. Moving on to the belt, I cut this fabric about 4 inches wide, and I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to sew a large, very long tube and then turn it inside out, iron it, and top stitch it to make my belt. Here's the final reveal. So guys, my dress is ready. I think it looks really, really good. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you like this upcycle, and I hope that you would try it. There's a lot of different options at Target. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. I hope that this video inspires you to do your own dress transformations. If you do, please tag me on Instagram. I would love to see how you did it. My hashtag is MomoMakes. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.